Welcome to Hardly. Each book is distilled into 3 stories, giving you the key ideas in minutes. Today we listen to Charles Schaeffer's book, When Panic Happens. Short-circuit anxiety and fear in the moment. Using neuroscience and polyvagal theory, in which we probe into how to use quick, body-based practices to stop panic in its tracks, the role of the vagus nerve in regulating anxiety, and the power of understanding your own nervous system to regain control. Dr. Charles Schaeffer is a licensed psychologist and an adjunct clinical faculty member at New York University. Don't go away. Hardly the editor will be right back with the story. Today, we're diving into 3 compelling stories that reveal how understanding your nervous system and employing body-based techniques can help you regain control during moments of intense panic. Our first story is about Dan, a business analyst at a startup who suddenly finds himself paralyzed with anxiety before a major presentation. Dan has presented to numerous teams before, but this time is different. As he prepares his notes, he feels a strange sensation, a tingling numbness creeping up his arms, his heartbeat becoming erratic, his thoughts clouded by an overwhelming wave of fear. His hands start to tremble and his mind goes blank. For what seems like an eternity, he's frozen in place, unable to speak or move. The feeling of being trapped in his own body intensifies, making him feel as though he might pass out or be sick. After somehow stumbling through his presentation, Dan turns to the internet for answers, but finds little comfort in the memes and overwhelming search results. He can't sleep. Every night, he relives the terrifying moments leading up to his panic attack. Desperate for a solution, Dan learns about the natural diving response, a technique mentioned in the book, where submerging his face in cold water can reset his nervous system, quickly calming his symptoms. The next time he feels that creeping sensation of panic, he heads to the restroom, splashes cold water on his face, and holds his breath for a few seconds. To his surprise, his racing heart begins to slow and the numbness dissipates. This simple action helps Dan regain a sense of control. He keeps practicing, and over time, Dan manages to use this quick, body-based practice to stop panic in its tracks whenever it arises, allowing him to perform confidently again. Gloria, a 7th grade history teacher, picks up where Dan left off. Like Dan, she experiences frequent panic attacks, but hers come on in a very different environment, her classroom. Since returning to in-person teaching after the pandemic, Gloria has been grappling with a heightened sense of anxiety around her students. Every cough or sneeze sends her heart racing, her mind filled with the fear of contracting an illness. Her chest tightens, her stomach churns, and she feels a sudden, overwhelming need to flee. On some days, she barely manages to keep her composure, feeling pins and needles coursing down her spine, her throat tightening as if she's about to cry. The fear of losing control in front of her students haunts her daily, and she finds herself dreading each morning. The sensation of her body's betrayal is a constant, unwelcome companion. Gloria stumbles upon the idea of using body-based techniques to regulate her panic. She starts practicing the body scan meditation described in the book each morning before class. Sitting quietly in her car, she closes her eyes and slowly brings her attention to each part of her body, from her toes to the crown of her head, noting where she holds tension. As she inhales deeply, she imagines pulling the tension out. As she exhales, she visualizes releasing it into the air around her. Gradually, she feels her body relax, her heartbeat steadying, her breath evening out. This daily practice grounds her, giving her a newfound sense of calm that helps her maintain control in her classroom. She becomes less reactive, more focused, and slowly begins to reclaim her sense of safety at work. Ming's story follows Gloria's with a shift in context, but not in intensity. Ming, a senior recruiter at a tech firm, used to find solace in his weekend swims at a local reef. It was his way to disconnect from the fast-paced demands of his job and reconnect with his inner peace. But recently, a panic attack while swimming left him gasping for breath, his chest tightening as though it was in a vice grip. The water, once his refuge, now seemed like a trap, and he was overwhelmed by the fear of drowning. When he tried to return to the reef a week later, the panic surged back with a vengeance. He felt betrayed by his own mind and body. The mere thought of swimming now brought waves of anxiety, his heart pounding, his stomach clenching in dread. He couldn't shake the fear that he would panic and drown in front of his family. Determined not to lose this cherished part of his life, Ming learns about a grounding technique involving leaves on a stream, which helps detach from ruminative thoughts. He finds a quiet place by the shore, closes his eyes, and imagines his anxious thoughts as leaves floating down a stream. Each thought, whether it's the fear of losing his breath or the humiliation of panicking, gets placed on a leaf and carried away by the water. As he practices this visualization, he notices that his grip on these fears loosens, and his body starts to calm. Ming continues this practice until he's able to return to the water, gradually rebuilding his confidence and finding his peace in the waves once more. Each of these stories illustrates the transformative power of understanding and working with the body's natural responses to panic. By learning how to regulate their nervous systems through specific, evidence-based techniques, these individuals were able to regain control over their lives. The vagus nerve plays a central role in this process. By activating the parasympathetic response through practices such as cold exposure or mindful breathing, one can quickly down-regulate the heightened arousal of panic and anxiety. As the editor of Hardly, by mastering these techniques, we equip ourselves with the tools to face our fears and create calmer, more resilient lives. Each story comes from the most representative, real-life cases selected by the Hardly team from this book. If you wish to dive deeper, we recommend purchasing the full book. In exploring how to stop panic in its tracks, we've delved into 3 powerful stories that demonstrate the effectiveness of quick, body-based practices and understanding the nervous system's role in regulating anxiety. These stories have shown us the importance of the vagus nerve and its profound impact on our ability to regain control in moments of intense fear. Now, let's consider one last story. Sarah, a first-time mother, struggled with severe panic attacks every night after the birth of her daughter. Overwhelmed by the demands of motherhood, Sarah found herself lying awake, heart pounding and mind racing, consumed by fears of being an inadequate parent. Every small noise from the baby monitor would send her into a tailspin of anxiety, unable to shake the dread of something terrible happening. Exhausted and desperate for relief, Sarah learned about the 4-7-8 breathing technique, a simple yet effective method that engages the vagus nerve to calm the body's fight or flight response. She began practicing this technique nightly, inhaling for 4 seconds, holding her breath for 7, and exhaling for 8. With time, this practice helped Sarah slow her heart rate and ease her racing thoughts, allowing her to finally get the rest she needed and approach each day with renewed strength and confidence. Through these stories, it's clear that understanding and leveraging our body's natural responses can empower us to manage panic effectively. The vagus nerve's role in maintaining balance is crucial, and with targeted techniques, we can enhance our resilience against anxiety.